Well, hello, everybody. Dave Stevens here, coming to you from the home offices just up the street from ESPN, where the Home Run Derby used to be. And we're going to miss those things on ESPN now that they don't have baseball. But we have a lot of baseball to talk about today. And this is the All-Star edition. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing a St. Paul Saints uniform, well, it's the closest I ever became to an All-Star, though I did pinch hit for an All-Star, but enough of me. Let's bring in everybody that's a part of today's show. I got my buddy Troy Geary in Minnesota at a Twins game. And of course, our special guest and old friend of the show is Bert Blyleven joining us from Florida. Bert, how are you, my friend? What's going on down there?
My inspirational individual, Dave. It's an honor for me to be with you and Troy.
Well, thank you. And Troy is about to watch as this goes to air. The Twins looks like going to lose. Troy, what happened today?
Twins looks like they're going to fall a hard-fought game 7-4. It's bottom of the 10th here. It went out, but you never know what can happen.
All right. Well, this is being taped while that's going on, but we are here to talk about the All-Star game. And since I've got a friend who has pitched in a couple of those All-Star games, Bert Blyleven is joining us now. And Bert, what are your memories of the Fall Classic and what that was like when you were a pitcher back in the day?
Well, my first All-Star appearance was back in 1973. I came up at 19 years old, and a couple of years later, I had an opportunity to pitch in Kansas City at the All-Star game, and got to be honest, I was nervous as heck. I was supposed to start the fourth inning. I remember Catfish Hunter started that ball game. He got hurt. He got a ball hit off his hand, and Ken Holtzman hurried up and got loose, and he was supposed to pitch into the third inning, but I guess he decided that that was enough. 1/3 of an inning, 2/3 of an inning, whatever, and they called me down, and I had to hurry up and warm up, and I think I walked my first two batters, so I gave up, I believe, a couple runs. I ended up getting a loss in that ball game, but it was an honor to be there in Kansas City in 1973.
I mean, you lost an All-Star game, and not a lot of guys can say that when it's the best of the best. I mean, do you still wear that badge proudly?
I do. You know what? I think I have another one that my next one was 1985, so it was 12 years in between All-Star appearances. That might be the most of anybody as far as being on one, and then finally 12 years later being picked for another All-Star game.
Well, as you talked about that, here you are in the Metrodome, which had to be a very special thing to kind of return back there. What are your memories of that?
Well, I was wearing a Cleveland Indian uniform. Jack Morris started that ball game. Jimmy Key, I looked it up. Before I came on your show. Jimmy Key started, and then I came in relief and pitched a couple innings. I believe I gave up a couple runs. I didn't get the loss in that ball game, even though we lost to the National League, who, they controlled the All-Star games for a long, long time. The National League did.
And Troy is sitting in the press box, and he has a couple of things he wanted to ask you as we again watch these magical moments. It just takes me back to when baseball was fun to watch. Troy?
Yeah, Bert, I was going to ask you about today's All-Star game compared to back when you played. I mean, it was a lot more competitive, it seemed, back when you played, and now it's kind of more of an expedition. Guys are on pitch counts and all that stuff. So just kind of your thoughts of today's All-Star game compared to when you were played.
You didn't have to mention pitch counts. You know what, 1973, we kind of came in, I think, on Monday, played the game Tuesday, and left Wednesday. We didn't have a lot of the hoopla like they have now. And 1985, I think, was the first All-Star game that they had the home run hitting contest. I know Tom Bernansky, a future teammate of mine with the Twins, won that home run hitting contest. And, when they said they were going to do that, I thought, they invited me to maybe pitch in that home run hitting contest, but they did not, and I was very, very happy I got into the actual game. But I came there as a Cleveland Indian representing the Indians, and then about a month later I became a Minnesota Twin via trade.
And Bert, sadly, it still is, I think, the most respected All-Star game between NBA, NHL football's become flag football. The NBA, they score 200 points. But in those days, you would see Nolan Ryan go three innings pitching, or you would get 2 innings, and you knew you were going to face all the Hall of Famers like that you were potentially going to do. So it really seemed like it did mean something in those years, even though it wasn't for a World Series home advantage or anything like that. But it still seemed like you guys really cared about that Midsummer Classic.
Oh, you really did. I mean, it took a lot of pride in being an All-Star. First of all, you're very, very fortunate. And then when you get there, you're in a locker room with all the greats. I remember my first All-Star game in 1983 or 73. I think the first batter I faced was Pete Rose, and then Joe Morgan, and then I think Cedeno with the Houston Astros. I got to face Hank Aaron. I think he got a base hit off me, which, he only had 3,700 of them. So, but just to play in the All-Star game and play against the National League at that time, which we didn't see a lot because they didn't have the interleague play. So, it was a lot of fun, and took it with a lot of pride. And I wish I could have pitched a little bit better, but it is what it is.
And Bert, I mean, what was the caveat? Like, was it like 5,000, 3,000, not like the millions of dollars for the bonuses that you get today?
You know what? I have no idea. I don't remember, 1973. If I got a bonus from Calvin Griffith, good luck with that. Maybe he paid for the plane ride. 1985, probably, I don't remember. I don't think I had anything in my contract. If I made an All-Star game, I got extra bonus. It's just an honor to be there.
Yeah,
Troy?
What do you think of all the MLB adding the draft and all that stuff around the All-Star game? Kind of make it a big, more than just not a weekend, but like almost a full week. I know things start on Friday when games are still being played. You got the draft, of course, Sunday, all that other stuff that goes on All-Star week. When you played, it was just really the game.
It was just a game, yeah, but I like what they've done. I think baseball's done a great job of promoting themselves, with the Monday events they have, and then the All-Star game, the softball games, I think that they put in. Of course, the red carpet gives everybody a chance, I think, to see a lot of their stars who they idolize or look up to walking down that red carpet. And then the All-Star game itself, along with a home run hitting contest, a lot of functions, a lot of pride, I think, of everybody. I think now that makes the All-Star team, they should have a lot of pride on being there and representing their ball club.
Bert, well, what was that like, especially in 73 for you? I mean, I know you were a fan of the game, so suddenly there's a Willie Mays, there's all of these stars that, especially there was no interleague in those days, so you wouldn't get to interact with a lot of these guys. So what was that like for a young kid like you then?
Well, as a pitcher, you have to face, some of the best. You mentioned Willie Mays. I mentioned Hank Aaron before, and Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Concepcion, I think, was on that ball club. That's when the Reds were really coming into their own. But, it was an honor to be out on that mound and with that ball in my hand and trying to get somebody out and to do the best you can.
And you always did, and we so appreciate your career. And it is great that you are now in the Hall of Fame. And we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, talk about what that was like for you in the Hall of Fame and those inductions. And again, a former teammate who you were going to see at Cooperstown who is no longer with us. So you are watching a very special All-Star edition of the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show with Troy in Minnesota, Bert Blyleven, Hall of Famer and two-time All-Star, joining us. So don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events wants you to come party with us. We're bringing the fun to the Houston Bay Area. Stay tuned for all of our incredible events throughout the year, featuring amazing food and drinks, live entertainment, special guests, and so much more. Fun, new, different. Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events is where you want to be. So come party with us. It's more than a yacht. It's serendipity.
Introducing the world's first temporary airbrush tattoo kiosk, iTattoo, bringing wearable, shareable temporary body art to live events. iTattoo stands for Interactive Temporary Airbrush Tattoo Unit. The team is raising additional capital for this incredible iTattoo concept, putting ink on skin at scale. I'll say it again, folks, ink on skin at scale. This will be the coolest addition to any event, and imagine the reactions when you add body art to the mix. Cool kiosks for a large venue or event, and it's super sponsorable. If you or anyone is interested in talking about the cap raise or the unit itself, please reach out to Nathan or Chris at itattoo.life.
Welcome back to the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show, and we are so excited to have you guys joining us on our journey as we will be at the Atlanta All-Star game coming up this week. And as Bert talked about, that has really expanded as far as it almost trying to be like the Super Bowl, where it's a big event. And in Bert's days, as he talked about, Calvin Griffin might have paid for his plane ticket. I don't think there was a per diem for your food. Hopefully there was a lot of good food in the clubhouse, right?
A lot of good food, yes.
Well, as we wind down the second part of our show, we touched on it, and I still think it's a travesty that it took Bert so long for you to get that call to the Hall when you had those numbers and the consistency and everything that went along with it. But you finally got it, and just take us through what that day was like.
Well, you know what, I was pretty upset, I think, from the years building up to that, and I got very close, I believe, on my 13th year, and then the 14th year I was finally put in as relief. I know that I was hoping my dad would be with me. I lost him with Parkinson's about 5 years prior to that, and but I felt him. I felt him during my speech. I felt his presence looking down from heaven, and my mother was there. My wife Gail and our children were there, so it was a day that I will never forget.
Yeah.
Bert, I just want to ask you about one of your former teammates that sadly just passed away and got elected Hall of Fame posthumously, in Dave Parker. Just kind of give us one of your favorite memories about playing with him, or maybe All-Star game.
Well, you know what I remember about Dave Parker, he's a heck of a guy. He was a guy that in the clubhouse was very vocal. He was, of course, a very big man. My son Todd, at that time, I think was about 6 or 7 years old, and he would go and always, when he was in the clubhouse, go say hello to Willie Stargell and Dave Parker. They kind of lockered next to each other, and Dave would put out his big hand like this, his arm, and my son would kind of grab both of his muscle here and then just kind of teeter-totter back and forth. They call Todd Howdy Doody. So it was a lot of fun, and I agree with you guys. I mean, Dave's took a long time to get in. He's going to be missed. I know his wife Kelly. I've got to know Dave, and I mentioned I lost my dad to Parkinson's many years ago, and Parkinson's finally got the best of Dave Parker, and I know he's going to be up there looking down at all of us, and we're going to be praying for Dave, which I have already. I miss him. He was a great individual. I saw him about a year ago at a card show, and gave him a big hug. And it's sad that he won't be there. I know also Dick Allen will not be there either. So you hate to time passes and we lose a lot of loved ones. And Dave Parker was definitely somebody that we loved.
Yeah, and we're watching two of the great plays from that 79 All-Star game where he gunned out Jim Rice at third, and then he made this great play that saved the game for the National League. Gary Carter with that tag, and again, Gary Carter no longer with us. And man, the Cobra, he had such a great arm, but he always, I talked to you earlier, Bert, about what that team was like, that whole We Are family. It was the first World Series I ever watched with my dad. It was the only World Series I watched with my dad when you guys came storming back when everybody thought you guys were down and out, and suddenly Sister Sledge is playing and We Are Family's rocking the world, and you're watching Rennie Stennon and Omar and Tekulve and Candelaria and you and all the guys just kind of rebrand and just no one even knows who lost that World Series. They know that the Pirates came back and won, and you and Dave were a big part of that.
Well, you know what? I think about that World Series. We're led by a great manager in Chuck Tanner. He let us be us. And we had a lot of veterans in that clubhouse. Jim Rooker, Ed Ott, Phil Garner, Tim Foley, Bill Matlock, Omar Marino out in center field. Of course, Bill Robinson in left, Lee Lacey, Steve Nicosia behind the plate with Manny Sanguillen. And our pitching staff, we were anchored at the end by Kent Tekulve, who has really kind of Hall of Fame numbers too. So played with a lot of great players in 1979. But I think what made that is if we lost a ball game, Willie Stargell or Dave would go over to the jukebox that we had or radio, and he'd turn it up louder. Let's go, boys. It's behind us. Let's win tomorrow. And that's the attitude we had. And even though we were down 3-1 to the Orioles, we came home and we knew we won, at home in Game 5. We had to go back to Baltimore. We jumped on Willie Stargell and everyone else's offensive back. Bibby pitched a great game. Candelaria pitched a great ball game. Jacoby got the saves that he had to, and we won the World Series, first World Series I was in.
Speaking of Twins, I just want to ask you about your broadcast partner for a long time, Dick Bramer, just retired. Kind of give us some thoughts on working with Dick and what it was like doing Twins games with him.
Dick was great. You know what? I don't think anybody in baseball, as far as the Minnesota Twins, knows baseball Twins history better than Dick Bramer does. And I worked with him for 25 years. We became real good friends. We saw two of his little babies being born, Eric and Hannah, and now they're grown up. And time guy goes too fast. But Circle Me Bert and all the things we did in Minnesota. It's a fans game. I think we had a lot of fun doing it, and Dick Bramer was a big part of that.
Yeah, I miss you doing the games.
Thank you.
We don't get enough of those guys that played the game that are now. They're just throwing in people left and right, especially, in the major leagues. Like I kind of lost interest in baseball a little bit anymore because you don't get those guys that are playing 8, 9, 10 years with the same teams. They're 1 year here, 1 year here, going to New York. I'll go play for the Mets this year. I mean, it's not that same as when we were kids. And it's been so great to get to know you, Bert, on a personal level, but also to appreciate one of the greatest curveballs in the history of the game. I don't think that you're recognized. So my long-winded question is, we just watched Clayton Kershaw get that 3,000th strikeout. Mm-hmm. There are so many guys that are so far behind. Are we ever going to see another 3,000 strikeout person? You had 3,700.
Well, it's a different game, of course. I think Troy mentioned the pitch count, or you did, Dave, earlier. Starters only go 5 or 6 innings, and they're bigger and stronger. They pitch every 5th day, where we pitch. I know when I came up in 1970, we pitched every 4th day. I don't understand the pitch count. You can't put everybody under one hat. I'm not going to put Joe Ryan under the same hat as maybe the 4th or 5th type starter, or Lopez for the Twins. I'm going to let them go 110, 120. I'm going to let them get in to the 7th and hopefully 8th inning, to where that bullpen isn't worn out by August. And but that's the way that the analytic department feels that in the game today, that's the way it has to be run. So I think a lot of managers, go that direction.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing though. They take me out with a no-hitter going like that young man in Yankee Stadium at 103 pitches. There would have been a fight in the dugout.
Well, speaking of no-hitters, you had a no-hitter in your last start for one of your teams. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was Texas Rangers. I'd just come off the disabled list. I had pulled a groin muscle, and I missed some time with the Rangers. And they're actually Texas. They were in Anaheim, and that's where I was living at the time. And I went out to the ballpark. I told Billy Hunter, the manager, that I felt I could pitch. They had an open spot. Ended up pitching and re-aggravating the groin in the 9th inning. But I got my no-hitter. And, everything fell into place. I had pitched, I had 60 shutouts. There were a lot of times that I had better stuff. But that day, it seemed like the angel hitters, and there was a lot of good hitters on that ball club, were hitting the ball right at my defense. And lo and behold, I ended up pitching a no-hitter.
Troy?
I was going to ask you, I mean, you kind of talked about, your curveball, but where do you think your spin rate would rate now in today's game?
I don't know. I'd like to find out what it is. I'd like to know what my velocity was, because it seems like everybody's throwing 98 to 99, and, Nolan Ryan, I think they probably, in this era, he'd probably be throwing 110. But instead of, I think, 88 to 92, usually where I pitched, I was probably 91 to 94, in today's game. It's changed a little bit that way. I kind of watch as I go down the highway, because they got these guns, and if they're juiced, my 45 is all of a sudden 50, and I might get a ticket.
Well, I created my MLB The Show guy with you as my pitcher. So even though in the MLB The Show I have legs, I'm throwing a Bert Blyleven curveball. So I'm enjoying that.
Get on top.
There we go. So let's take a look at who's playing in this game. Bert, if you want to comment on any of the guys that you enjoy watching. Troy, why don't you go over some of them?
Yeah, I mean, for the American League, we have Cal Raleigh, who leads the league in home runs, catcher, 35 home runs, first-time All-Star. So he'll be exciting to see. I know he's had a great year. Vlad Guerrero, consistency with his selections. I think this is number 9 for him. And a lot of young guys. I mean, Jacob Wilson, pretty good shortstop. Gleyber Torres, who's been around the league. And then you got consistency like Aaron Judge. And then, a couple of young guys, Riley Green and Javier Baez has a resurgent year this year with the Tigers, and they're doing great. As in the National League, I mean, like I said, a lot of these young guys, Kyle Tucker, Pete Crow Armstrong, first-time All-Star, pretty fun to watch. And then where everybody likes to see Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure he'll have a huge following, especially the Japanese reporters. We're going to have to fight over them when we get to Atlanta because they just hound the guy. But it's just going to be one of those weekends that's going to be fun for all of us.
And Bert, we talked about Ohtani. Does it amaze you? Is he the greatest player you've ever seen? I mean, you were around Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, and they weren't pitching.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ohtani is a special individual, but think about Hank Aaron. People say, who was the greatest player ever? I look at Hank Aaron because you take away his, 715 home runs, whatever it was, he still had over 3,000 hits. Willie Mays was a great player. Troy, I got to ask you, did Bobby Witt made from Kansas City Royals? I like him a lot.
I think he did. Do we have the list, Dave, yet?
They're just starting to come out. They've added guys like looks like they've added Clayton Kershaw. That must be like a special retirement selection thing because I don't think he's got the numbers to be an All-Star. But
did Byron Buxton make it?
Let's see. De La Cruz is there. Backups: Hunter Goodman, Schwarber, DH, Corbin Carroll, American League, Will Smith, National League. Yeah, they haven't announced. Again, we are taping this, so we can put this up a little bit later as far as who the.
Yeah, I mean, Buxton deserves it. As you know, Bert, you've been watching him from afar, and I think Joe Ryan should get him too for the.
I agree. And then also Griffin Jacks is having a very good year out of that bullpen or Duran. They've got some good arms up, but every ball club now has a great bullpen.
That's true. But again, as you talked about, those are the guys that they're spot starting, relief pitchers and things like that. So, Bert, as we leave you with, I have one question as we end up, and again, thank you for your time. Is the game still fun to watch for you? I mean, I know you're involved with the kids and the camps and with the Twins and everything like that, but is it still an enjoyable, fun game to watch?
It is. I could still stop off and watch a Little League game, on the side of the road if kids are playing. We have a house that's not too far from a big park, and there's always kids out there playing. Of course, Dave, don't not love the game. The game is a great game, even though it's played a little bit different now. It's still 90 feet, to each base. It's still 60 feet, 6 inches. And you fall in love, I think, with the ball club. You fall in love with certain players that you admire, even though sometimes they get traded from here to there, but never fall out of love for the game of baseball. It's the greatest game in the world.
Absolutely. And could you fathom the contract you would have in this day and age?
Well, if Calvin Griffith was the owner, I'd still be
well, Bert.
You know what? I went through 8 different lockouts and strikes, and I hope that these players today, the current day players, and I think the Players Association, the Alumni Association, they do a good job of trying to tell these young kids the history of the game from the first strikes that we had in the early 70s all the way, sad to say, in 94. Let's not let that happen again. But I went through 8 of them. I've lost a lot of playing time because we were fighting for the players and the future of the game of baseball.
Absolutely. Well, Troy, final thoughts?
Yeah, Witt did get in, and they're just announcing through. So I'm hoping Bucks and Ryan get in too.
Hope so too. Thank you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for Bert. For Troy, next time you see us, we'll be in Atlanta. All kinds of things going on there. The futures game, the draft, the softball, celebrity, although I question celebrities that they've announced. But hey, everybody wants to stay safe and not get hurt. So again, for Bert and Troy and myself, this is Dave Stevens. You've been watching the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show All-Star Selection Show. Bye, everybody.